Hi, and welcome to this QuickBooks training video from Tracy Bressler CPA. This is another in our series on using inventory in QuickBooks. In this video we're going to cover two things. We're going to take a look at preferences that need to be set up for inventory, and then we're going to take a look at creating inventory part type items in QuickBooks. That's kind of the beginning point for setting up inventory. We have to have the right preference turned on, and then we have to create our items so that we can track the items that we're going to buy and sell. So I'm going to start this by going to the Edit pull-down menu, and then to Preferences, then to the Items and Inventory section right here in Preferences, and then to the Company Preferences tab. What I really want to point out to you is this first checkbox right here that says Inventory and Purchase Orders are active. Without that checkbox checked, you will not be able to create inventory part type items in QuickBooks. You won't be able to create purchase orders. And so if you have a QuickBooks file and you want to start using inventory and you're not able to create the items that you need, this may be the reason. I would come here and take a look and make sure that this preference is set correctly. There are a couple of other things here that you might want to take a look at, such as duplicate purchase order numbers and what kind of message you want concerning out-of-stock items and so forth. Those are pretty self-explanatory. You can take a look at those. I just wanted to point out that first one for you. Okay, with inventory turned on, then we are ready to create the inventory part items that we need to buy and sell in our business. I'm going to take a look at those by going to the Lists pull-down menu, then the Item List. Now this is a sample file. It has a pretty long item list already here to start with. If you notice, I want to call your attention to this Type column right here. And you'll notice that we have a number of service type items, one of the types of items we can create in QuickBooks. And after that section, then we have inventory parts. Well, that's what we're interested in for this video, because those are the parts that will, or those are the items, I should say, that QuickBooks will use to track purchases and sales, to keep those cost numbers in the system, and to keep those quantities on hand. So that's what we're interested in looking at. There's another column here that says on hand. You notice that most of the items, it's blank in this column. There's nothing recorded there. It's only those inventory part items where there's a number in the on hand column, because those are the only type of items that QuickBooks is tracking what we have on hand, the cost, and so forth, like we've been talking about. So rather than set up a new item from scratch, let's just take a look at one that's already here. I'm going to pick this brass hinges item. I'm going to right click on that and click on Edit Item. And this is the window that I would see if I were going to edit an item, or if I were to set up a new inventory part item, I would see this window as well. It's just the fields would not be filled out yet. I would have to fill those out myself. Here's the important part, inventory part type item. That's what tells QuickBooks this is actually part of inventory. The name is brass hinges. It's a sub-item of hardware. There's only one reason for using items and sub-items in QuickBooks, and that's to control where those item names show on the list. So if I were a sporting goods store and I had, say, baseball bats and softball bats, if I used those as regular items and named them that way, then the baseball bats, of course, would be under the letter B and softball bats would be under the letter S. So they'd be far apart from each other on the item list. It'd make it a little harder for someone scrolling through that list when they were creating an invoice or a sales receipt to find those. So in a case like that, I might create an item called bat, and then sub-items called baseball bats, softball bats, and so forth. And that would make them a little easier to find. That's the only reason for using that. Manufacturer's part number is optional. Comes in handy if you need that information to order with. You can include that there. Unit of measure is something we will include in a later video. We'll talk about that, how to create that. This is an important section here, purchase information. Some of this pretty self-explanatory, what description you want to use. Cost, this does nothing accounting-wise as far as this cost goes. It will appear on your purchase orders by default. But if you're using the system correctly, QuickBooks will compute the cost from the purchases that you make. And that's the number it will use for accounting purposes, not the one that you put here. So you could even leave this blank, and it won't make any difference to your numbers accounting-wise. Let me skip over the account and just point out that you can set a preferred vendor here. Again, that is optional. but you can't put that information in. This is the cost of goods sold account. That's an important one. That's why I wanted to save it for last, for this section anyway. And you can see I have my whole chart of accounts available to me here. But a cost of goods sold account is the type of account that I want here, because this is the account that QuickBooks is going to use when it has to record that cost. When I sell that inventory item, that cost has to be recorded in QuickBooks. It does that in the background. You don't do that. But QuickBooks needs to know what account should that go to. Now there is a sales information side as well. You'll see that the description can be different on the purchase side or the sales side. So a purchase order or a bill is going to pick up this description for this inventory item. A sales receipt or an invoice would pick up this description for the very same item. So you can either set those the same as they are here, or you can use separate descriptions. Sales price, that's what's going to appear on the invoice or the sales receipt by default. Is this a taxable item or not? Yes, by default this is a taxable item. And the income account. So this is another important setting that we want in QuickBooks. And QuickBooks is going to know this is the account that it's going to use when you use a sales type transaction in QuickBooks and you use this item with it. So a sales receipt, an invoice, a credit memo, any of those forms in QuickBooks are going to use this income account that you set right here. This is usually always set to inventory asset account, so when I purchase more brass hinges, they're going to go to the asset account and they're going to increase the number on my balance sheet of the dollars of inventory that I have on hand. I could set a reorder point if I wanted to. We'll be looking at how to use that information in a later video. We have 460 of these on hand. That's quite a few. That's probably those have all come from bills that we've created, or could be checks to purchase those in the system, and the average cost is $3. You see, those really aren't fields. We're not putting any numbers in those. QuickBooks is going to be tracking those numbers for us as we buy and sell these items. That's really all there is to setting up a inventory part type item in QuickBooks. Once I have all that information in there, I just need to click on the OK button and I will have my inventory part here. Usually when we're setting up inventory parts in QuickBooks, we're going to set those up at a 0 quantity, and we'll use a separate transaction in order to record the purchase of those as we begin to use that item. So I hope that's useful to you. I hope that will help you get started on your using inventory in QuickBooks, and if you will be sure to look at the other QuickBooks training videos that we have on inventory, it will help you complete that process. Thank you.